What? Why did they skip it? They totally skipped the Silfie freaking out scene. What was the thinking process behind that? Well, I know there's a lot of, like, inner turmoil that Rudeus himself is going through right there, but God, that's like one of the most symbolic scenes of this entire volume. There's even art given to it. Like, they literally drew art of Silfie freaking out, and Rudeus, like, trying to calm her down. Like, he's sitting there, like, cleaning off her hands. Don't worry, it's okay. Calm down. You have to relax. Because she legit thinks she just killed Nanahoshi. We skipped that. We're just going to skip over to her being on the bed. And it gives so much context to her. Like, that moment of guilt with Silfie is the reason why she's doing everything that she does after this point. Like, she's going on that bed. What they're doing there is they're transferring her health and stamina to Nanahoshi. That's not like a healing spell. That's literally like her essence is being given to Nanahoshi. She feels extremely guilty about this whole situation. Like, she's like, I killed her. What's happening? Oh, what a miss. What an absolute... Like, they've been doing a great job. Season 3, they have been doing a fantastic job of adapting this. Like, you guys see it from my videos. Yes, there's a few videos that are a little bit long. Last week was a little bit long. There's a few videos that I've been doing for skip content. It's a little bit long, but it's more kind of just explaining things in greater detail. Like, overall, they're adapting a lot of stuff, and they're not, you know, doing like 15 chapters in one episode. They're doing a great job with the adaptation of this segment, but this is the first big flop. This is a big oof moment, because this is just like a pinnacle point. And again, they had art made for it. They had little art made for it. But anyways, episode 9 of season 3 of Mushoku Tensei. What a really good episode. Again, holy crap, that scene with Nanahoshi breaking down. I was in tears when I read that point, because there's so much to really discuss behind her emotions in that moment. It's the world that's rejecting her. And yes, given the fact that she actually liked the idea of being there initially, but over time, realizing this world kind of rejected her. It doesn't give her magic to use. She had to, like, take care of herself because this world doesn't have, like, advance in, like, medicine and whatnot. She's trying to, you know, safeguard herself. At the same time, her body's not changing. She doesn't go through, like, different cycles and whatnot. Like, her hair doesn't grow and all this kind of stuff. She's like a zombie in this world. And now we're literally getting to the point where now she's getting so close to getting out. And now the world's rejecting her. It's literally killing her. The world right now is literally killing her. Like, you said I can't be here, I'm trying to get out, and now you're killing me. I'm gonna die before I get out of here. How absolutely frustrating. I love that moment of, like, frustration where she lashes out at Rudeus, too. Like, the voice acting in that whole scene was phenomenal. Like, this entire episode was so beautifully done, and especially around Nanahoshi. God, that breakdown. And also, yes, we also got the return of Kishirika. You know the animators love Kishirika. Like, they put so much into her expressions and this constant animation. It cuts over to, like, Rudeus and Zenoba, and it's, like, just stills. But it comes back over to her, and she's all animated. Like, you know they love her. You know they love her. You know that they absolutely love animating her. But, yes, let's get into the episode proper, like I usually do. I go through scene by scene, talk about the anime, my impressions on it overall, as well as do skip content. So if you're looking for skip content, plus some impressions on the episode, this is the place to be. I'll make sure that you guys get fully caught up on what's happening in the novel series that's unfortunately getting cut going to the animated format, including, yes, the very first scene of the episode that's completely skipped. Let's get into it. Yes, as Nanahoshi falls, we have this little scene where, again, Silfie kind of freaks out. Reese and Silfie were frozen in place. Silfie says, "Just now, when I poured my magic into her, why? I don't..." Flecks of bloods collated Silfie's face as she stared down at Nanahoshi. Her skin was deathly pale. Rudeus strode to Silfie, calling to her with a tremor in his voice. She flinched, eyes trembling with fear as she retreated a step. No, it wasn't me," she said. "I didn't do anything to her." Edging back as if into a corner, he followed her until her back was to the wall. Once she knew that she had nowhere to run, she squeezed her eyes shut. Again, she thinks that she killed her, and right now she's afraid of Rudeus lashing out at her. She's feeling guilt right here. It's scary. She says, "I know what I said a minute ago, but I really only intended to tease you a little bit. But really, I would never do something like this." He pulled out a handkerchief and began wiping the blood from her face. This is sort of probably the reason why I think they may have cut this from the anime, is this does technically play a little bit into like a fake out. This is like a fake out moment where it gives the impression that Rudeus is mad and he's going towards her and she's getting cornered and she's freaking out and he doesn't say anything. That's the whole thing. That's why it's a fake out, is because she's saying all this stuff to excuse and say, "No, I didn't really mean that." And he's saying nothing. And so it gives that impression of like, oh, is he really mad at her? So that may be why they cut it. He continued by cleaning off her hands. The worst vehicle for diseases was bodily fluids. It wouldn't fix everything, but he couldn't leave her looking like that. Silfie didn't try to resist, merely stood there, letting him go to work. He says, "It's okay, Silfie. I watched the whole interaction with Nanahoshi. You didn't do anything wrong." Rudeus was calm now. Seeing her lose her composure helped him keep his. He says, "It's okay. You didn't do anything. Nanahoshi has been sick for a while, understand? Things just happen all at once, with the worst possible timing. This is absolutely not your fault." Silfie says, "Okay, but when I tried to use my magic on her, there was something strange inside of her. It was like my mana wouldn't go through her. In fact, it just seemed to coalesce together or something." And yeah, this kind of makes sense now that we know what it is. It's Strine Syndrome. It's the idea that mana is like building up inside there. Blood was trickling from Nanahoshi's mouth and her nose. As she lay there on the ground unconscious, her life could be in danger if they didn't get help. Rudeus needed to do something to calm Silfie down. No, perhaps he should order her to do something. It was best to do that when someone was in a confused state. Giving them something to do helped them snap out of it. "Listen, Silfie, I need you to get help. Either Cliff or Lord Perugius. I'll watch over Nanahoshi and do what I can for her. But in the meantime, I need you to get help. Can you do that?" "Yes, I could do that," she said. Clarity returned to her eyes and she dashed off. Silfie had faced carnage before, but that didn't prepare her for having an acquaintance throw up blood out of nowhere. Worse yet, happening it right after she touched Nanahoshi. Again, it's a guilt thing. It's an absolute guilt thing. He knew his wife wasn't the type to hurt someone else, no matter how jealous she was. That said, sometimes she could be compulsive and... No, that was not possible. Even he's having like a brief moment of like... Technically, way back there when Rudeus was sent off to go teach Edis, Silfie technically did almost kill Paul. She did, in reaction to seeing Paul carrying Rudeus over to the carriage unconscious, she flipped out and attacked him. If it weren't for the fact that he was a skilled swordsman and deflected it, he would have died. He threw those thoughts out the window as he turned to face Nanahoshi, despite what he told Silfie. There was little emergency care that he'd give Nanahoshi. He'd just have to do what he could. Again, I don't know why they skipped this, because again, there's a lot in this scene. There is an element of Silfie and her massive fears of being blamed for it, her feeling guilty, not really understanding what happened, the panic state that she's in, and having Rudeus here trying to calm her down. And again, even having a little moment of like questioning compulsiveness of Silfie. It's good stuff. But anyways, that's when we actually jump into the episode's beginning, where we see that, yes, 3 days had passed since Nanahoshi had collapsed. She hadn't regained consciousness yet. We have Yuruzu the Atonement was looking after her, using a special type of healing power that allowed her to transfer one person's stamina and health to another. Since it operated differently from detoxification magic, it could be effective in treating illnesses that couldn't be cured through normal means. Still, Yuruzu needed someone to cooperate to perform it. Silfie immediately volunteered. Again, there's the guilt there. And she wants to help too, but it's a lot of it having to do with the fact that she wanted to help out Nanahoshi. She wanted to fix the situation. As Yuruzu worked her magic, Nanahoshi's face contorted in anguish, coughing despite remaining unconscious. That's when Perugius walks in, asks Karawante what's going on. Karawante was Karawante of Insight. They had the ability to peer through the unknown, to identify a person's secrets. This also meant that he could analyze a person's condition if they were unwell. It was almost like an X-ray vision. And that's when we get the little breakdown about how they're not really able to work on her and that they have to go search the archives. And yeah, really quickly, Perugius is like, "No, stay out of my archives." It's like, Rudy's like, "I want to help out." "No, stay away from my archives. I don't want anybody in my archives." The archives has like a bunch of information in it, but he really is selective about who actually goes inside there. We get a little bit of insight into what Rudeus is doing from this point until they eventually do find the conclusion. They basically spend 3 days trying to look up information about what's going on with her. During that time, Rudeus returned home and updated Roxy on the situation, letting her know that Nanahoshi had collapsed and that Silfie was helping treat her. Thus, he said they would be a bit delayed on returning home. Roxy immediately took action, contacting the university for time off, then explained everything to the family in his stead. She also said that she would take care of everyone while he was gone. She was far more calm and collective than he was. No doubt, she was used to this sort of situation. He like even points out the fact that like, gosh, I don't have anything to do for 3 days. And so he's like, he goes home and he goes to tell Roxy like what's going on. Like his whole goal was like, okay, well, if I can't do anything, I'll just make sure that everybody knows. And then Roxy ends up doing, he's like, well, I don't have anything to do for 3 days. That's when we cut over to Cliff offering his prayers. There's a little bit in here about how like, Rudeus is obviously acknowledging people sort of seeking some sort of comfort or help from other other people, including Millis. Rudeus has a little moment of self-reflection about Nanahoshi, that Nanahoshi had teleported to this world and wasn't reincarnated like he was, not aging or being able to use magic or magical implements. Perhaps it wasn't just mana that she lacked, but immunity to pathogens of this world. If that were the case, she would have fallen ill sooner. It had been 8 years since the displacement incident. That was a long time for her to go unaffected, making him question if she was really going to die. And yeah, eventually Nanahoshi mentioned the fact that she tried her best to sort of avoid things. I mean, there is sort of like a positive effect of her kind of locking herself up is for specifically something like this. You're not of this world, so there's going to be some sort of like, I mean, they even joke about it. I mean, it is in the novel, it's in the anime as well. The whole idea of the movie where the aliens come and invade and they end up dying from an illness from the humans. They don't have an immunity that's built for it. So Nanahoshi herself, locking herself up is actually technically a good thing, but then there's a side effect, the fact that she's not building an immunity and that eventually somebody's going to come in there and it's going to hit her hard. That's something I've sort of acknowledged, the fact that me and my growing up is that I built a lot of immunity, so I barely ever get sick. And so I run into a lot of people that are younger and they're like constantly getting sick. And it's like, did you expose yourself at all when you were younger? Or were you always locked up? But yeah, that's when they come in with the actual conclusion that it's Drine syndrome. And it was from a long time ago when humans possessed less mana, which again, that kind of checks, right? You have Nanahoshi that's in this world. She came here with her body, and thus the assumption here is that she came in with no mana. She's not able to use magical implements. She's not able to put mana into things. Again, that's why she needed Rudeus. She needed Rudeus to provide mana for her research. Otherwise, she was having to acquire mana stones in order to use those on the circles. She had no capacity to use any sort of magic. So it makes sense that she's kind of similar to these people that were from a long time ago, and now she's being affected by this. They said it's not surprising that you're unfamiliar with it. It was active an eon ago, when humans possessed less mana than they do today. Back then, a number of children were born without any mana at all. By the time they reached 10 years of age or so, without exception, they would die from this syndrome. Checks, right? Nanahoshi's been here for about 8 years. Kind of checks. Now, there's sort of a sad thing here is that probably because she's only been here for 8 years rather than 10, it probably has to do with, when they were sick, they come over and they would heal her or they would, detoxification magic on her. And that was probably putting more mana into her. Because again, what Silfie said was that the mana wasn't going through her. It was collating. It was stopping. It was just going in. And again, it sort of kind of sped up the moment she was healing her. Suddenly started coughing more. It's an unfortunate reality there. Not to say that Silfie's fault or Rudeus' fault or Cliff's fault for using magic on her. They just didn't know about it. According to literature, those who did not possess mana of their own lack the ability to neutralize outside mana that filters in. Thus, it accumulates inside of them for over a decade and causes the illness. That's the sad reality right there. Again, she doesn't have her own mana to push it out, her own mana to sort of neutralize it. So all the mana that's coming in is just collating inside of her. But yeah, that's the point which they decide they have to go out and figure out how to find a cure. They decide to have Scarecrow of Time use his power to freeze Nanahoshi's clock. Scarecrow of Time had the ability to freeze time to anyone that he touched. It would stop his time as well, but if you use that on her, it would keep her from dying or getting worse. Yeah, this is basically like a time stop for her. She's literally going to stop in time, and that gives them time to go out, find some sort of cure, come back, restore time for her, and then give her the cure. That's the idea here. But yeah, with this in mind, this turns into a little bit of an argument. But this is the sad thing about Perugius. Again, Perugius, as much as I like him, I really don't like certain aspects of him. One being the fact that he's discriminatory against all demons, which includes Roxy. So he disrespects Roxy, the goddess. He doesn't realize that Roxy is a goddess, not technically a demon, but that aside. But yeah, his other problem here is that he's dedicated to his job. His job is to wait for Laplace to come back. And then as they mentioned in this episode, he's literally going to come back. At some point, Laplace will come back, and I have to be ready for him. And yeah, of course, that brings the question mark of Rudeus, like, wait, he's coming back? I thought you got rid of him. I thought you got rid of this guy. Yeah, anyways, the little argument here in the fact that he's so dedicated to that goal that he doesn't want to offer up too much of his help. He wants to help out Nanahoshi, and he wants to kind of fulfill the obligation that he has in order to take care of her while she's there. He doesn't want to put himself out there too much to owe somebody a favor. And because that's going to ultimately take him away from his goal. I don't want to owe somebody. I don't want to put myself too far out there because I have this to deal with. I need to focus on this. Yeah, even Rudeus kind of mentioned the fact that, yeah, it seems like with the whole situation, Nanahoshi and, trading ideas with her about summoning, that must be like just a side thing of his, not necessarily a focus of his. His goal is this thing. And that, of course, frustrates Cliff right here. Cliff getting super mad. And it's so funny to kind of have it kind of push back at him as well. Cliff's getting upset because he's like, you're Perugius. Everybody thinks you're an absolute legend. You could fly down to each major city and go, I am Perugius, the legendary hero. Help me find a cure for this. And everybody potentially could drop what they're doing to help him. Like, he could literally, like, probably force an entire kingdom, like, literally by force a kingdom to help him find a cure. He has this capability, but he's not using it. Why wouldn't you use that? It's all in our teaching that, and Mill teaching that you're supposed to help the weaker. You know, you're supposed to do what you can when you have that ability. Perugius doesn't believe in that. He's like, what are you talking about? You do it. I don't have any obligation to do that. You do it. What was he said to something to the effect of, like, when somebody else doesn't step up, you should step up or something like that. Don't rely on other people to step up. It's funny to have Perugius technically able to push his words back at him because he's like, I know what your teaching is. I know what they say. Why would you need me to do it? Having the ability to do something does not mean one is obligated to do so. Don't push your annoying Miller's teachings on me. But again, kind of scary here, and they kind of pulled off really well with the anime, having Elise kind of step up and say, stop. Cliff, please, I don't want you to die. I don't want you to die just for this. Please, stop it. She senses all the familiars are getting ready. Like, they're literally all poising for battle. It kind of shows, like, a couple of them kind of just bringing their hands forward. Like, they're no longer standing at ease. Like, they're bringing their hands forward. They're getting ready to fight. So Elise obviously catches that. She's probably watching them at all times, but yeah, it was a tense scene. It was a tense moment right here. Again, I agree with Cliff. There's a frustration there of, like, I thought Nanahoshi was your friend. You're abandoning her. Why are you doing this? It seems like, and you get a sense of that in the anime, it seems like over time, Perugius kind of shifts a bit. Like, early on right here, he's literally saying, I'm not going to do too much. I'm not going to go out of my way to be owing somebody a favor, but I'll help out. I can. We'll get some information out of the archive. We'll keep searching that or whatever. There's like a sense here where he doesn't want to put himself out there. But as you see when Rudeus comes in and he kind of, presses on him and says, I want to do what I can. I'm not going to ask you too much, but please can you assist me as much as you can? He's starting to kind of slowly open that door of, like, okay, I'll help out. Okay, I'll do a little more. Okay, I'll see what I can do. There's kind of a semblance here of him sort of being swayed by the people around him, being more magnanimous, being a magnanimous man. But yeah, that's when Nanahoshi regains consciousness. They go in there. Yuruzu ends up mentioning to them that drying syndrome causes a buildup in mana, which alters the body and leads to illness. We have managed to treat the symptoms. It seemed that drying syndrome resembled AIDS. Their detoxification magic was clearing the symptoms, but not ridding the problem. Rudeus asked if they possibly could absorb the mana from her body or something. They said that they weren't able to do that, and they didn't know anybody that could. At this point, Rudeus wondered if they could possibly make a magical implement that could draw the mana out, possibly use the mana absorption stone. But he corrected himself. It couldn't absorb what was inside a person's body, though it may not be impossible to use it in some other way. Maybe make something instead. But how long would that take? And yeah, technically, they probably could spend plenty of time researching this, because again, she's supposed to be frozen once they start this process on her. But yeah, it's when we get to the scene with Nanahoshi breaking down. Oh man, I cried when I read this point because there's so much frustration here and so much pain here, but the anime just pulled it off. Like, the seiyuu for Nanahoshi absolutely pulled this off. She did an incredible job. You can hear the pain, just the screech in her voice. You can feel that pain coming out of the speakers. It just hurts so much. And the animation was phenomenal. Just seeing how, like, absolutely, like, death state that she's in. How frustrated she is, how pained she is. And again, a lot of this has to do with, like, her frustrations with the world itself, not being able to go home, not being able to be here, seeing, and this is the sad part of it, seeing Rudeus happy. There's a side effect to Rudeus trying to make her feel welcome and trying to help her and make her feel at ease. Again, like making an entire dish that's Japanese. These are the kind of things that are hurting her, but at the same time is helping her. He's trying to comfort her while just putting her through agony. It is, though, very interesting right here, though, to have her, when she first starts to get upset, she talks about the fact that when she first got there, she actually was kind of excited. Like, when she came there, it was like, oh, a world of swords and magic. This is cool. Yes, she wanted to get back home to her family and her loved one, But there was an element of like, yeah, I was a little bit excited when I first came here, but then I realized really quickly that I can't do it. Like I came here and this world is sort of kind of, as Rudeus figures out, this world is ruled by mana, battle auras, stuff like that, using magic. It all takes mana. And she doesn't have any of it. So she can't protect herself. She can't get physically strong enough to be of any use in the world or to protect herself. She can't use magic, none of that stuff. Literally, if it wasn't for Orsted showing up when she first arrived there, she'd be dead. She would literally have died so damn fast. If not, she would have been taken advantage of. Orsted saved her life so bad. Like, literally, she would have been dead so fast if it wasn't for him showing up and taking care of her. But yeah, she comes to this world. She's a little bit excited. She wants to go home. But then she realized that she can't really do anything here. What is she going to do if she doesn't have the ability to protect herself or fight for her own? She has to rely on other people or learn the language and get a job somewhere and avoid being taken advantage of by somebody. It's like this is an unfortunate state that she's in. And she's dealing with the fact that her body itself isn't changing. It doesn't feel like she's even belongs in this world. She feels like a zombie itself. All the frustration building up inside of her. And again, this is the more tragic part of this, is her lashing out at Rudeus. Despite the fact that he wants to help her, she's lashing out at him. Why? Because you're always happy. I'm suffering all the damn time, and I want to get home, and you're here having a great old time. And you're just constantly flaunting your joys in front of you. I haven't even kissed somebody yet, and I want to go see my loved one, and you're just strolling around with your 2 wives. All that kind of stuff is frustrating her. You're complaining about losing your dad. Whoop-de-doo. I can't even see my dad. I'm not even going to see how he dies. Oh no, your mom is ill. I don't even know if I'll ever see my mom again. It's, again, this is like pent up frustration in her. Not that she means any of it. It's just that she's sad. She's scared. Literally, she's scared. Like at the end of it, it's like, please, somebody save me again. I was like, oh, it is such a tragic scene. Oh, and they did such a beautiful job on it. Again, this will probably go down as one of the best scenes of the series overall. Like of the entire series is like top tier. One of the best, like, adapted scenes. I do like how they portray the sort of helplessness in the situation. I mean, they showed it even with, like, Elise and them leaving. It's like they don't know what to say. There's nothing they can say that's going to help. All they can do is just leave and try to find something that will help out. Rudeus himself also, like how they kind of show him terrified. He's scared. He doesn't know what to say. I don't know. He's, like, overwhelmed by her emotion that's kind of hitting him and doesn't really have a thing to really kind of push back. He tries to kind of console her briefly, but then she just kind of, again, just fires back at him. She buried her face in her knees, muffling sobs spilled from her. The pain of her voice was like daggers to his heart. When he first came to this world, he wouldn't have empathized with her at all. That's a good admission there. Her complained about her not being able to see her family, but now that he's experienced family, he understands it now. I understand the idea of missing family. I couldn't imagine being separated from my family. All that kind of stuff is hitting him. Now things were different. He understood wanting to go home and see his family again. He knew how precious those seemingly monotonous days could be. Once they were gone, you could never get them back ever again. Paul was dead. Zenith's memories might never come back. The warm family he knew from Buena Village was gone. However, in its place, he now had a new family to protect. Silfie, Roxy, Lucy, Lilia, Aisha, Norn, and Zenith. If he was separated from his girls forever, it would tear his heart in two. If any vanished, he would go to the ends of the world to find them. It wouldn't matter if he could use magic over there, or if girls tripped over themselves for his attention. He would still be dead set on getting back to this world. That, I think, is the most telling response to this situation. Again, it gets in the anime the idea of, like, I love these, and I would be so heartbroken to leave them. But right here, it's specifically saying, let me put it into perspective here. If I was thus returned back to my old world, like right now, if he gets Isekai again back to his old world, he would claw to get back to this one. That's what Nanahoshi's going through right now. Nanahoshi's entire body shook as she squeezed her arms around her knees. She never got closer to Zenoba, Cliff, or Silfie than absolutely necessary. But she always listened to Rudeus. When he asked something, she would oblige. When he had a party, she would attend. In hindsight, she never treated him unkindly. She brightened up just a bit whenever they spoke Japanese. As the only person who could speak her mother tongue, he was her only respite from it all. Please, someone save me, she cried out in a quiet voice. Rudeus stood up and returned to the meeting room to find Perugius still seated inside. Again, that whole scene was just heartbreaking. And I love how Rudeus doesn't really kind of feel like she's meaning a lot of that. Like, again, she said some really nasty things right there. But again, it's in fear. It's in frustration. I want to have what you have, basically. I'm jealous. I'm jealous. It hurts. It hurts. But yeah, he goes back to Perugius and kind of presses him. Hey, I need you to help me out. Rudeus thought it was great, but where to start? Illness extinguished over 7,000 years ago. None of them had any clue what to look for a cure. If a cure was simple, Perugius would have said something. Maybe a magical implement. He had no idea if it would do the trick. Cliff engineered an implement for Elise, but it hadn't cured her entirely. Still, perhaps he could do the same for Nanahoshi, and gradually add improvements. That would work, however it would require them to monitor her constitution for changes, and Nanahoshi didn't have that much time. She'd vomit up blood this flare-up. Yuruzu cured the symptoms, but it would reappear soon. Plus, with her body frozen in time, they couldn't experiment. Implement aside, they could look for someone who knew the treatment, the man god, or maybe Orsted. They were the first to come to mind. Problem was, he had no way of contacting the man god. With luck, he might visit him tonight and impart his advice, but their communication was entirely by man god's leisure. Yeah, it's kind of interesting right here. I don't recall them actually mentioning in the anime that right here, technically Rudeus is even considering the man god. He wants to see the man god. Hey there, why don't you try this out? Like, maybe he'll possibly impart his wisdom to me tonight, but I can't call for him. I have to wait for him to call me. You know, like every single time he calls, it's always like an unknown number. I never know how to call back. But interesting right here, the idea of possibly Cliff making something. Because Cliff, again, technically made something for Elise to help with her problem. With her curse and how it kind of keeps flaring up, it kind of holds it back. Right here, he's kind of going, okay, well, maybe we can possibly make an implement, like a magical implement that you can keep with Nanahoshi and it'll just draw that mana out of her, potentially. But yeah, he asked him about Orsted, and he has no way of contacting him. But he also mentioned the fact that technically Orsted's only been around for like 100 years. He appeared in this world about 100 years ago, so he's wise. He knows a lot of stuff, but like looking up information about a 7,000-year-old illness isn't going to do him any good. Like nothing really to kind of study up on. But yeah, the mention of 7,000 years ago obviously hits Rudeus of, oh, Kishirika. Gotta go see Kishirishu. Gotta go see her on the Demon Continent. So yeah, that leads them to going off to the Demon Continent. But yeah, with that in mind, they're of course going to be using teleportation circles in order to get there. Rudeus, in his own mind, mentioned the fact that teleportation circles were a bit terrifying. It made sense that they were forbidden, and that Orsted and Perugius were using them in secret. Access to them could allow an army to bypass defenses or terrain, which yeah, technically makes sense. Though Rudeus was sure that Orsted and Perugius wasn't the only ones using them. Let's not be dumb here. There's probably some people that are still using them. There was also probably other forbidden spells and tools that were being used in secret, such as the Way of the World. Yeah, it's not like these kingdoms are all like avoiding things that are forbidden. If they can use them to benefit themselves, they're going to of course use them. That all said, Rudeus had no qualms with cheating and using such magic to speed up the search. Yeah, of course. They would be using Roxy's strategy. When she came to the Demon Continent to search for Rudeus, she would visit each city individually and search them thoroughly before moving on, as well as putting in requests at the Adventurers Guild in case Kishirika happened to go somewhere else they had visited, paying handsomely for anyone who managed to capture her, unharmed of course. With travel only taking a day, he guessed it would take a year. Yeah, that's the scary thing there. It's kind of thankful that they caught her so fast, as we see, but still, that was a crazy thought process there. And again, it was technically around the idea they're going to have to be going to several different cities, and thankfully, they end up finding her here, thanks to the magnanimous Perugius and his idea of where she might be. But yeah, that's where they get together for the game plan. Rudeus mentioned to Zenoba and Elise to come with them. This was a choice that he was making to have two bodyguards. Zenoba was a blessed child. If they faced a Hydra again, he's still stuck on the Hydra. Even to this point, he's still stuck on preparing for a Hydra. Zenoba being a blessed child, if they faced a Hydra again, he could surely handle it. With Rudeus being unable to produce a battle aura, his defenses were weak. Though on the magic side, he had disturbed magic and mana absorption stone. With Zenoba as their vanguard, they would have a chance if they faced another Hydra. Of course, he'd be devastated if his overconfidence led to his death, which is why he had Elise for support. And that's when Cliff speaks up, and of course, Rudeus right here in the novel, he suggests to Cliff to stay behind and work on a magical implement. He had no guarantee that Kishirika would know about the sickness. Therefore, he wanted to approach the situation from multiple angles. Nanahoshi's illness was similar to a curse. If Cliff worked off his existing research, he might be able to make an item to extend her life. But of course, yeah, Cliff's like, no, I want to go with you. So there's like an element here where, yeah, technically through Cliff sort of relating to Nanahoshi, Rudeus agrees to have him come with him. And you see at the end of the episode, it's like both of them. Both Cliff and Zenoba, in the end, agree to come here because they both feel a sort of camaraderie with Nanahoshi. That's why they're helping her with the research. That's why they're coming with him to the Demon Continent. They both feel similar to her of wanting to go home. Cliff wants to go back home to Millis, wants to go back to where he came from. Zenoba, kind of a shock here, he also has something that he wants to return home for. So there's a camaraderie here. They all feel similar to her in a way. That's when Silfie speaks up and he tells her to go back home. Go home. Go to the kid. Go back home. Get in the house. No, I'm joking. His whole thing here is that he doesn't want both of them away from Lucy. He wants at least one parent there. And again, there's sort of a lack of feeling here, but there's been several days passing here. Rudeus is feeling like a lot of time's going to be passing here. And again, he's planning on going to the Demon Continent, and he's figuring it's going to be about a year there. He doesn't think this is going to be a quick thing here. So he doesn't want both of them away from Lucy this entire time. Now, Rudeus in his own mind acknowledges that he doesn't believe that a parent is required for a child to have a proper development. But he has acknowledged that Paul and Zenith were the reason that he grew up the way that he did. It was better for a child that their parents did look after them. It was fine for their mom and dad to leave for a week or two, but not to leave a child without parents for months on end. So it's like sort of a sign that his mindset around parenting has changed. And a lot of that does kind of stem around Paul and Zenith specifically. Now, here's an interesting thing that I noted in the novel. At the point where, Silfie does agree to doing this, she has a little bit of look of disappointment. And there's like almost an element there of like, okay, girl, you should be okay with the idea of taking care of your daughter. Why are you acting like you have to go with Rudeus? He's saying something logical here. This child needs a parent. Rudeus thought it wasn't like Silfie didn't love Lucy, but Silfie had fended for herself since she was 10. Thanks to the displacement incident, her parents died before they could reunite. Silfie had largely survived by luck and people she met, but she still worked hard at her job and put effort into their marriage. Perhaps she thought a child would be fine without parents. I can see that. Again, her mind being a little bit kind of changed by the fact that she grew up without parents. Or maybe it was more widespread belief in this world that a child didn't always need their parents watching over them. Yeah, in nobility, and that's a lot of the case. With nobility, that's definitely a big case. Either way, Silfie was only 18. People's way of thinking didn't suddenly change when they had kids. Instead, they matured through the years they raised their kid. The thought of having kids didn't even occur to Rudeus when he was 18 in his previous life. In that respect, Silfie was doing a fantastic job. Yeah, technically. After that, Silfie suggests the idea that Rudeus actually, check with Roxy. Like, technically, yes, Roxy's from the Demon Continent, so she might be able to help out with that whole situation. Rudeus wanted to have Roxy there, but Perugius wouldn't let a demon on board. Yeah, technically, they have to go down towards the lower area of the floating fortress in order to get to the teleportation. So he can't have Roxy come there and just go down to the teleportation and transport. That said, Roxy had her career to think about, and it would be a shame for her to get fired after a year. While Rudeus wanted to save Nanahoshi, he didn't want it to cost his family everything they built. That's why he wanted Roxy and Silfie looking after everyone and keep things running. Part of this was Rudeus' ego talking. His words weren't exactly wisdom for the ages, but all the same, he didn't want Roxy and Silfie walking into danger. He never wanted to witness someone he loved die ever again. Not after Paul. Nowhere in this world was entirely safe, but the Demon Continent was far more dangerous than the city of Shiraya. Yeah, technically. Again, there's a little bit of selfishness in here. He's acknowledging the fact that, I want to keep my family safe first and foremost. I like Nanahoshi and everything, but I don't want to lose my family. And yes, I don't want to go off into danger in the Demon Continent with them. I kind of want to keep them safe. But yeah, that's when Perugius sets up the teleportation for them. He mentions at some point there's a chance they would not be able to use the teleportation circle to return to the fortress. If that was the case, they could use a certain magical implement in front of one of the monuments of the Seven Great Powers, at which point someone would retrieve them. It wasn't as if Rudeus didn't trust him, but you never knew what could happen. Laplace could revive the second they left. At that point, Perugius would be too preoccupied to worry about them. For that reason, Rudeus prepared a large sum of money and items to barter with, as well as a map for the teleportation ruins. He's like, there's a chance that Perugius might just ditch us the moment that Laplace shows up. Heading down there, Savaro mentioned the fact that Lord Perugius had recently drawn the circle, and it was linked to a circle on the Demon Continent that has been long gone unused. Rudeus' question about being long unused, which he says there are many teleportation circles in the world whose connecting circles have, for whatever reason, been destroyed, leaving them inactive. So basically, like, this circle that they end up going to could have been linked to somewhere, say, on, one of the Western continents or whatever. And so, since it's been destroyed, Perugius is just kind of linking up to there. Teleportation circles only operated when both sides were connected. By linking this circle to one that has been decoupled, he would restore its functionality. Rudeus thought it would be honestly useful to link up a bunch of new circles to the old ones, but such power is forbidden, and Rudeus was sure that Perugius wouldn't teach it to him. Plus, fiddling with such thing could only net Rudeus more enemies, and that was a terrifying thought. No need to be greedy. Plus, anyone could use the circles. A fearsome monster could stumble upon them. Creating a bunch without regard for the consequences could lead to the destruction of an entire village. Yeah, don't want to do that. Anyways, that's when they transport down, and there's a little bit in here that they kind of overlook in the anime. Well, they legit overlook it because we cut straight to Zenoba doing the super robo punch before asking, what is this robo, Rudeus? But yes, when they first come in there, despite being 50 centimeters thick, Zenoba slammed his fist through the wall, continuing his punches. It was like a child toppling a sandcastle. Annalise asked Rudeus for a lamplight spirit before heading through first. Cliff groaned as a light illuminated bleached white bones on the floor. It appears this place was once a prison, Emily said. Some of the skeletons had metal cuffs on them. Cliff's expression turned sorrowful as he clasped his hand and said a prayer. Rudeus followed his example, placing his hands together and giving a chant to Buddha, and apologizing to the dead for disturbing them. This place was covered in bones, making Rudeus wonder how many were locked up here. He wondered what the death would think, knowing there was a teleportation circle just on the other side of the wall. But Perugius had said it wasn't connected to anywhere anymore. Yeah, he's like, finds this big room that is full of just dead people. And he's like, well, that sucks that there was like a way to get out right there. This place is like all like sealed off. Perhaps these people teleported here and then were sealed with magic. That's a good question mark there too. If that were the case, whoever did it was awfully cruel. Annalise found some stairs in the corner of the room. It seemed the prisoners weren't even kept in cells, or so he thought, until he found the hinges on the floor. Maybe there was once wooden bars holding them in. At the top of the stairs was a metal hatch. Annalise carefully checked for traps before trying to open it, but it seemed there was something heavy on top of it. That's when Rudeus commanded, Zenoba Robo. And that's when the anime cuts to there. So again, very interesting that when they first come in here, there's a wall that's keeping them kind of trapped with the teleportation circle. They bust that wall, and they find this room full of corpses. Or bones, rather. But corpses, all the same. And then it's when they find the stairwell that goes up, and before there's another hatch there. Makes you question, what was this teleportation circle in? Like a prison of some sort. But yeah, that's when they go off to Reconnecting. On the way there, they have a little mention about the fact that, Cliff's got to watch what he says. Be careful around these people. I like how Elnise kind of points out, hey, he doesn't even know Demon Tongue, so it's not going to be a problem. Rudeus acknowledged that Elnise couldn't speak Demon Tongue as well. When traveling before, Roxy did most of the talking. That said, Elnise seemed to know some sexual terms. Cliff would probably faint if he knew of her daily life here. But that was because of her curse, of course. I mean, she liked it too. But yeah, that's when we have them entering in the city. And again, they quickly are questioned about this individual, which we kind of find out later on is supposed to be Kishirika. In the picture, she's a lot more well endowed. She's a little bit different. Like, I guess they kind of mention later on, as Nokopada figures out that they're searching for Kishirika, that demons are kind of weird, and it seems like Atofe didn't really have them take into consideration what Kishirika's current age is, what her current stature is. She's not this voluptuous woman right now. She hasn't regained her powers. But yeah, they look around the city a little bit. Note that Elnise keeps getting eyeballed, and they keep checking the paper to make sure it's not her. They eventually go to the Adventure Guild. That's where he ends up posting about, Kishirika, looking for information about her. Though, as the receptionist does place the request on the board, Rudeus noticed a flyer, the search and rescue for Fotoa region survivors. The search party in Millis had disbanded, but the mission was still up. The contact info was the same too, referring people to Paul of the holy country of Millis. If anyone turned up and made the trek to Millis, they would be pretty devastated to find that no one would receive them. Rudeus had them change the contact information to Alphonse of the refugee camp, assuming he would still be accepting survivors. While Rudeus could put his own address, he had no means or energy to take care of strangers. I mean, it's an obvious thing to acknowledge there. You don't have the capability of taking on so many people. But yeah, that's when they end up running into old Nokopada. Old Nokopada, the horse-faced dude that betrayed Rudeus last time and tried to get him stuck in a scheme. Old Nokopada. This is the point which Rudeus does discover finally that, yeah, seems like Nokopada was an old party member of Roxy. At some point, Rudeus is like thinking to himself, he's kind of jealous about that. He kind of wants to know more information. Wait, he knew Roxy from back in the day. I'm kind of jealous about that. But yeah, they end up getting Nokopada roped in to help them gather information. Rudeus obviously acknowledged that this guy is really good at gathering information, so he's going to be very useful in the situation. But more so the fact that Rudeus right here is, pushing himself not to dredge up the past, and not getting caught up on the fact this guy got them caught in a web last time. He thinks to himself, Edis would probably not forgive him for what happened, but time wasn't a luxury they had, and wasn't about to let old conflicts waste it. After all, Nokopada hadn't known Reserved was a superb back then, and their party let their guard down. It was water under the bridge. Nokopara had even shit himself in public that day, so they got justice out of it. And as Nokopara goes to leave, Elise even tells Rudeus, good job holding it in. She said it occurred to me, he was the man that set you up before, wasn't he? Which this surprised Rudeus that she knew about this, and she said, a little bird told me when I was here last time. They said that Nokopara almost got himself killed after messing with Dead End. I don't think Roxy knows about it, though. She's like, she heard about Nokopara nearly getting killed by Dead End, so he probably ran into you. In the end, though, it was an unfortunate accident. Rudeus was partly at fault for taking the easy way out. People like Nokopara, who used other people, gave him the creeps. But Rudeus was no saint either, which is why he had no business judging others. If Nokopara didn't recognize him, that was fine. But after this, they go looking around for a little bit. Rudeus felt a little nostalgic as they went by the Wolf Claw Inn, the place where he stayed before. 3 young adventurers were chatting as they exited, probably to go shopping. Rudeus wondered how Kurt and his party were doing. His mistake had led to one of their members' death. Still, he was hoping the rest of them were doing well. Being 8 years, he didn't know if they were still alive. Even still, if he ran into them, he'd like to kick back and talk about the old times. An idea occurred to him as he thought. He may be able to get help from P-Hunter too. Jalil and Viskel, they were small-time thugs, and while this time it wasn't to find a pet, Kishirika was kind of like an animal. Yeah, for those that don't remember, Jalil and Viskel were the two that Rudeus and Rajerd and Edis swapped jobs with. So they were taking on the jobs that Jalil and Viskel were doing, and Jalil and Viskel were taking on their jobs. But yeah, unfortunately, when they go over to where the P-Hunter's pet shop was, they come to find out that yeah, Jalil's dead. Jalil messed up when he was taming some monster 2 years ago and ended up dead. And Viskel apparently gave up the shop and just went off somewhere a year ago. So no help from them. Rudeus couldn't believe that Jalil had really died. He knew the Demon Continent was a harsh place, but he was a bit sad to hear that he was gone. While he did betray them, they worked together on good terms for a time. Yeah, technically, I mean, Nokopara was strong-armed in him. Come on. Anyways, a little time passes. We end up having Nokopara show up with some information about what's going on. Apparently, somebody is looking for Kishirika too. A certain demon king, which Rudeus thinks is going to be Body, but no, it's not Body. It's Lady Atofe, a terrifying demon king. Rudeus thought, so, Body had a sister. Rudeus wondered if she had 6 arms, super ripped, and looked like a black Amazon. Nokopara said, if you do anything that she doesn't like, she'll immediately take your head off your shoulders. That was hard for Rudeus to picture, considering how good-natured Bodigadi was. But that meant it was best not to approach her. If she was related to Bodigadi, she might also be immortal. But that meant it was best not to approach her. If she was related to Bodigadi, that also meant that she was immortal. In other words, she may have been alive 7,000 years ago and know a cure for the Drying Syndrome. Seeking an audience with her might not be a bad idea. Although there was no telling she'd meet with them. They end up actually using Zenoba's influence in order to try to get in there, but unfortunately they get turned away right at the door. And that's when we cut over to the scene in the anime where Zenoba and Rudeus are sitting there together. I like how Zenoba acknowledges that, you know, Rudeus is obviously going out of his way for this whole situation, and he sort of feels like Rudeus is sort of blaming himself for the illness, sort of what happened to Nanahoshi. I like that little acknowledgement there. But again, it gets into a lot of here with Zenoba sort of relating to Nanahoshi's desire to go home with sort of his desire to go home as well before, again, some point Cliff ends up handing somebody some food. I like how the animated shows Emily's getting all excited about Cliff being a nice boy. She's all like excited about it. And he's just giving some food over to Kishirika before she pops up and says, I'm the great emperor of the demon world, Kishirika Kishirishu. I'm going to give you whatever you want. Tell me what you desire. But you know how that worked out last time? All the stuff that Rudeus asked for, she said that she couldn't do. So what could Cliff possibly want? We'll have to wait and see. But again, I love her reintroduction. As usual, it seems like the studio just has way too much fun with her. Just way too much fun with her attitude, just being all goofy. I think that's pretty much it, though. I think pretty much everything else in this episode was pretty well covered. There's a lot of emphasis here, obviously, around Atofe herself being extremely terrifying. We're just kind of setting up some sort of game plan with Zenoba kind of being a shield as he kind of fires at Atofe if something goes wrong. But again, they didn't really get an audience, unfortunately. They were turned away right at the door, so that didn't work out. But we'll see. We'll see how things turn out next episode as Kishika makes her epic return. But yeah, that's my thoughts and the skip content for this segment of the anime. I hope you guys enjoyed this video as always. Hope you found it informative. As always, I appreciate you guys' support. If you guys do want to support the channel, there's links in the description below. You can become a member of the channel. And I greatly, greatly appreciate everybody that supports the channel. But until next week, until the next skip content, y'all take care.